Alright, thank you for watching. I had my camera already set up because of my previous video I filmed today, and now here's something else I've got set up. Let's talk about something else. Dave Ramsey. Here are my thoughts about Dave Ramsey. Dave Ramsey is a financial advisor. He is a Christian, although when he is giving financial advice, he gets extremely little into theology. He usually sticks to financial advice. To the degree that he talks about religion, it's just his belief that there is a God who we will answer to, that we are stewards of our possessions that God has given us. He has a radio show, which I think is also broadcast on the internet. He does advice columns. He runs a financial advice company, I guess you could call it. So you could call his company for financial advice. He has something he calls Financial Peace University. I'm not sure how much of a diploma or how big a deal they make about it when you go through that, but it's financial advice. It's classes about how to handle your money. He has written multiple books. I'm not sure the exact number. He calls his ideas, his system, a money makeover, or a total money makeover. If I had to rate his advice on only thumbs up or thumbs down, he gives good advice. If I am given a more nuanced rating scale, I would not give him 100% on a nuanced rating scale. The things that don't make sense about him or his advice, or what I didn't like about his radio show, here it is. I'm going to do what I didn't like about him, or disagree with him on, and what I think he's right about. And then some thoughts about some of his followers. So I think he takes some good principles to an extreme. Like, he tells people to have like no hobbies that cost any money until they've got a big savings account. I don't think the opposite is true. I think it's good to not have expensive hobbies you can't afford. But I think it's okay to spend some money on hobbies, more money than what Dave Ramsey would say. Dave Ramsey confuses me about whether he wants people to have cars or not have cars, or new cars or used cars. He takes when he's giving his advice, sometimes I've been guessing. On the radio, I would listen to him on the way home sometimes. Now I can't. The radio station that used to have him doesn't. But I would hear the caller, I would hear the person asking advice describe their situation, and I would think, he's got to tell them to keep the car. They have a car. They need to get around from point A to point B. Why not keep the car? And he would say, get rid of that car, sell it, trade it in, buy a $1,000 car. Buy a little $1,000 car, you don't know if it's going to run. And then sometimes I would think, he has got to tell them to get rid of that car. That car doesn't make any sense. And he would say, no, you can keep the car. Keep the car. Keep the car? What? Yeah, so that was one thing I didn't like about his radio show, that confusion I would get from listening to him and not understanding what basis was he telling people to keep cars or get rid of cars for. He takes the position, always buy used cars. Except one time he told somebody to get rid of their car and buy used heaps of junk that might not run. That's my wording, not his. That, use really cheap cars so they could buy really nice brand new ones in the future. Why not stick with what you have now that you know is going to run, instead of lusting for the ridiculously expensive car in the future? Dave Ramsey takes the extreme position of buy used cars all the time, every time, never owe a car payment. Car payments are a stupid tax. A stupid tax to pay car payment. My opinion about the subject of used car versus new car is flavored by my bad experiences with used cars. I had one used car that it would run when it wanted to and not run when it didn't want to. I eventually traded the thing in. Well, it's like I needed to start it several times and sit in it for a few minutes to get home from school before it would start. It stopped on the way to getting my wife to work, and we missed the day of work, got it repaired, and it didn't work. The repair worked for a little bit, but it didn't last long. And then it died really close to a Pep Boys. Waited a few minutes in the middle of the road with cars going past us, tried it again, it got started, and then it died in the Pep Boys parking lot. But it was too late in the day for Pep Boys to look at it. But not too late in the day for us to sign paperwork promising to pay them the examination fee they charge if they are just trying to find out what's wrong. But the next morning, when it was time for the repair, for them to look at it, it gave them no problems. It ran fine for them. I picked it up and it ran for a few more days until it got back to its usual old self. And then I had a pickup truck that was used. That broke down on me. The motor had a problem. Took it somewhere to get it fixed. The fix didn't work. Took it back. The guy that was fixing it got sick. I was on the phone with the shop owner, and he said, "Have you ever seen a black man turn green?" And that's what his worker was that was working on my truck happened to. So he drove him to the hospital. He was waiting for him to get better to get the truck fixed, which I guess is reasonable because he was already starting to work on it and take it apart and get it fixed, right? I ended up spending a ton of money renting cars when I had used cars because the used cars weren't running. So I'm of the opinion it's not a waste of money. If you have a job coming in, money coming in, get a new car and low car payments. Don't buy a luxury car. I didn't say buy a luxury car. Don't buy a sedan that costs you $60,000. You didn't need that. But you need a car. Just keep that car a long time. See, buy a new car is not saying buy a new car is not the same thing as saying buy a new car every 2 years or every 3 years. That is stupid advice, to buy a brand new car every 2 or 3 years, especially if you haven't paid it off yet. I've listened to a lot of this one radio show about car advice where people would call the show and say, "Well, I still owe on the car, but I want to get a new one." Why not pay off the car that you have instead of lusting for a brand new car? If the car's running and you owe money on it, pay it off. But if you keep a car for a long time, like after you're done making payments on it, then that'll average out when you're not making payments and when you're making payments. So for the life of the car, your per monthly payments are not going to be that high. Alright, so when I watch his radio show, listen to his radio show, I would have preferred to get more details from the callers. There's a difference in a write-in where you're answering a letter and you have to deal with what they wrote to you. If they're on the phone with you, you can ask them more details. I would have been curious to learn more about the people's lives. Alright, now, what is Dave Ramsey right about? Like I said, I wouldn't give him 100% on a nuanced rating scale, but I would give him a high rating because he is against ridiculous, wasteful debt. He takes an extreme position that I don't take, but it is a good idea to only have a mortgage payment, or, even if you can get that paid off. But it's a good idea if you don't owe credit cards, if you don't owe luxury car payments. If your goal when you get a car payment is to pay it off and spend years not making payments, maybe, after about spending 5 years making payments and 8 years not making payments, in that 8 years you can save the money you were spending on payments and your next one could be bought in cash. Yep. And so he's right about that. He's right about saving money on food. Eating out is not a necessity. No matter how much your immature little kids say, I want to eat at McDonald's because they've got the toy from this or that movie. You do not need to eat out. You especially do not need to eat at a luxury place. But food at home is just as nutritious and healthy for your body as food at a restaurant. So, if you're not rich, you don't have money in the bank, you don't have savings, don't go out to eat. That's not good money management. I think Dave Ramsey is right about that. Dave Ramsey is in favor of people getting educations that will lead to better employment. Yeah, if you want a better job and you don't have a degree or diploma or you haven't been through trade school, do something like that. That's a great idea. Alrighty. So I agree with him about that. Yeah, his slogan at the start of his radio show was where not where debt is king, where freedom is king, and where a paid-off home mortgage replaces the BMW as the symbol of wealth or a symbol of success. Now, something that bugs me when I think about Dave Ramsey is some people that are married have inappropriate questions for Dave Ramsey. I'm not saying they ask him for sex advice, but if you have a husband or a wife, they're your partner. They are part of the one that was made by getting married. Their opinion should matter more to you than Dave Ramsey's opinion. Especially if they're not being ridiculously stupid and irresponsible. Maybe it is okay to go to Dave Ramsey if my wife wants to spend $20,000 on luxury clothing and we have no savings. Or my wife wants not just a new car, but a luxury car that costs double what a new basic car costs. Maybe for something like that, Dave, I want advice because my husband thinks he needs a $40,000 boat that we will need to pay for with credit. That's another example of an extreme waste of money that maybe it's okay to go to Dave Ramsey for a little bit of advice about, and hopefully, something like that. But I've seen people go to Dave Ramsey because they have savings. And the husband wants to buy a new car with the savings. We're not talking about getting into debt. We're talking about buying a used car, buying a new car with cash, or at least a big down payment. And Dave was accusing the husband of being childish. He wasn't asking for a toy. He was asking for something he knew was going to run. So one thing that bugs me about Dave Ramsey is, and this is not his fault. He does financial advice. Maybe he could tell some people, you should make a higher priority out of your husband's opinion in my opinion, or your wife's opinion in my opinion, maybe. But he doesn't get on his radio show and say at the start of his radio show, please call in so I can tell you your spouse is wrong and break up your marriage. He doesn't do that. But some people have gone to Dave Ramsey for advice, and they are giving Dave Ramsey more of a say about their family's finances than their spouse. And there's something wrong with that. The one specific example where he called a husband immature and childish, and it was a written format. It was the advice column, not the radio broadcast. And I wish the wife would have let us know how good or bad of condition their cars were in, but if she did not tell us how bad their used cars were, I'm going to assume the worst. I'm going to assume extremely old with the air conditioner not working, or with the motor on the windows not working, or something like that, rust all over it, I'm going to assume the worst out of a used car that an adult wants to replace with cash. Alright, so thank you for watching this. Now you know what I think about Dave Ramsey. You have a good day.